Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Gracie King and this is the channel Gracie King, where we're in Japan and I'm Gracie King. We talk about things in Japan. So today, welcome any new potential JET program ALTs. This video is for you today. So what we're going to talk about is kind of what you can expect to experience when you go for the JET program interview. Congrats if you've got your letter to say that you've made it through the first step. You did good. Proud of you. What to expect? This is obviously very specifically related to New Zealand and Wellington. However, I've talked to a lot of ALTs and they've had very similar experiences, so I'm sure like within a range they're kind of similar. So let's get into it. You're rolling up looking real snazzy in your interview threads. I walked in. I'm a visual stressor. I don't know how to so I shake. I cannot, once I start, I don't my cannot stop it. I'm shaking like this. I literally had to sit on my hands while I'm waiting for the interview to call me in. And I also do this thing where I stop breathing and I'm like, you might think that seems stupid, Grace, but I can't help it. I forget to breathe, so I stop breathing, and then my body, after I don't know, 40 seconds of realizing I'm not breathing, goes Gah! So here I am, like this. So it's a real good look. So if you're visual, I'm also a very sweaty human, so that's great. If you're a visual nervous wreck, look at me. Look, I made it. So don't worry too much, but try and keep it under control. Anyway, there was another person sitting waiting with me because they were conducting 2 interviews at the same time. So we chatted for a little bit, and then I got called into my interview. There were 3 interviewers. I went in, shook all their hands. There was an alumni JET, there was a Japanese woman, and then there was an older woman. I think that was it. And I went in, sat down, introduced myself, and they saw how nervous I was, and they're like, are you okay? Do you need a glass of water? Are you fine? And I was like, I'm fine. Let's go. So that was a great start for me. And then what they do is they sit you down, and they pretty much go over, they've got your application in front of you, so they go over your application and they ask you specific questions about the things you wrote. So tip number 1, know your statement of purpose, all of that, the back of your hand, and have reasons to back up all the stuff you wrote about, because that's what they're really gonna start with. So that will get you through the first half of the interview. Is what you've written down, so that they're going to ask you about those sorts of questions. So have reasons to and examples to back that up. Now, they did that for me. They asked me a lot of questions about my statement of purpose, and I just ran through those. Then they whipped out a grammar test. I was not expecting this at all. And it was 6 sentences, and they gave me a pencil and they're like, just mark the area of the sentence that's wrong. So there was something where I was like, what did they have? I can't even remember. It was should of and should have. And so you just circle the one that's wrong, and then once you've gone through all 6, circle them, and they're like check, check, check. So I got all 6 right, but then they ask you to explain why it was wrong, and I could only give proper grammatical answers for 3 of them. So don't worry too much if they ask you to do this and you don't know the correct terms. So I was kind of it's wrong because it is, that comes up a lot in my job. That's just me not knowing proper English. It's fine. Look at me now. Still don't know anything. So they did a grammar test. I know other people who didn't have to do that. Then they jump into some more specific questions. They asked me would you mind living in the countryside, or like how would you deal with that? I gave some examples of like how that would be fine. I have no problem with that. If you say on your statement that you can drive a car and you're like, you're willing to drive, I think you could. I'm not like not specific at all, but like a lot of the people who live in Inaka know how to drive, or like can get their international license. So I don't know, maybe if you don't want to live in the Inaka, don't say you can drive. I'm just saying, it could swing in your favor. What else did they ask? They asked what would you do if you didn't get along with your co-workers? So I just sort of brought that back to my old job. They asked, what 3 things would you bring with you to represent New Zealand? I said photographs, toy kiwi, no idea what the last one was. But the lady who asked me that question actually gave me some suggestions. Like, she was trying to be really helpful. She's like, oh, when you go, you should take this and this. And I was like, yeah, when I go. What else? One lady was, she was playing like bad cop, and she was like, you have no experience teaching. Why do you want to teach? And why in Japan? Like, why would you put both of those together? That was a very stressful question. I had to bullshit my way through that. Those were the questions they were kind of asking. The next step, they're like, oh, you've got a little bit of Japanese experience. We're just going to switch the interview into Japanese. And I was like, no problem. I hadn't spoken any Japanese for 3 years since high school. And then they blubbed some stuff in Japanese, and I was just like, oh, I literally feel like it was like, how did you get here today? But at the time, none of it went through. And I was just like, and they're like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, should we just pass? I literally was like, let's pass that section. So we passed over that. Didn't matter anyway. It's not a requirement to know Japanese to get on the JET program. Anyway, so did my Japanese section. I think they did a few. Oh, they asked about mental health. They asked sort of like, have I ever been depressed? I had no medical issues on my thing. So they do talk a little bit about your medical side of things, and homesickness, and how you're planning on dealing with culture shock. Then I talked to a couple of other ALTs who live in my city, and they had to do a mock lesson. Even my ALT who is from New Zealand, I've got New Zealand and American ALTs who had to do a mock lesson. And so for one of them, they got given, do a Christmas lesson to like elementary school students. And then they had to, oh, I lost my voice. They got given a specific topic, so it was Christmas, and specific group of students, which are like elementary kids, and it was like, make a lesson on the spot, let's go. So that's what one of them did. The other one, it was kind of like you could do whatever you wanted, and so we just did whatever we wanted. Adds up. So if you may or may not get a lesson plan, so maybe have a couple of like ideas in the back of your head about what you could do. Self intros, if you could somehow make it self intro related, those are so easy. I'm gonna hopefully post a video about my self intro for junior high school. You can get some good ideas for that if you do make it to the next stage. Yay, it was done, finished. They asked their last set of questions, then they looked at me and I asked them some questions. I think that's a really good point. If you want to make yourself stand out, come up with a few more questions. You know, probably all of them have lived in Japan, so have a few questions in the back of your mind where you can ask them. Show that you've got initiative. That's all I can really say about that. It finished, shook their little hands with my sweaty shaky hand, and I was like, thank you very much, and I bolted out that door. I don't know if it was obvious, but I whooshed out of there, and then I blacked it out for like 2 months. Literally, if you asked me a day later what questions I was asked, I could not tell you any of them. No clue. It was traumatic. But like, only because I made it traumatic. It was overall, it was a good time. Most of them were nice. It was bad cop. Bad cop was a little bit scary. But everyone else was really nice. So that is your JET interview overview. That was how mine went. I hope yours goes well. Yeah, just have lots of life examples. Use your life experience. I talked about shearing sheep. I talked about my old job. I talked about, so many different things. And anything you have, you can use, manipulate, and turn it into something really useful for Japan. That's all, team. That's all I got for you today. So good luck in your interviews. I know you can do it, and I will see you all in Japan.